Amen. Would you stand to your feet? Let's turn to 1 Samuel chapter 17. Where all my young folk at? Everybody who's going back to school, raise your hand. Everybody going back to school. I saw you raise your hand. Yeah, go ahead and claim it. Go ahead. Amen. If you kindergarten to 12th grade, I know if you go to Graham, you're already back in school, but for the majority of you, you're returning back to school on tomorrow morning. This sermon is specifically for you. I'm also going to call out us as parents as well, but I need you as young people to listen very, very clearly. I'm going to have you during the sermon to stand up to make sure you're not sleeping and make sure you're not fading. And so I'm going to have you to stand up and say some things, okay? So I want you to stay with me. Won't be long because I understand your attention span is not that long. Neither is ours. Amen. 1 Samuel chapter number 17. I want you to find verse 29. You there? It reads like this. David said, "What have I done now?" It was only a question. Look at verse 30. He turned away from him toward another and spoke in the same way. And the people answered him again as before. Look at verse 34. Go to verse 34. It says, "But David said to Saul, Your servant used to keep sheep for his father. And whenever a lion or a bear came and took a lamb from the flock, I went after it and struck it down, rescuing the lamb from its mouth. And if it turned against me, I would catch it by the jaw, strike it down, and kill it. Your servant has killed both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be like one of them, since he has defiled the armies of the living God." Verse 37. David said, "The Lord who saved me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear will save me from the hand of this Philistine." So Saul said to David, "Go, and may the Lord be with you." Go to verse 39. David strapped Saul's sword over the armor, and he tried in vain to walk. Somebody say he tried. For he was not used to them. Then David said to Saul, "I cannot walk with these, for I am not used to them." So David removed them. Go to verse 40. Then he took his staff in his hand and chose 5 smooth stones from the wadi, that means a stream, and put them in his shepherd's bag in the pouch. His sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. I want you to look at your neighbor directly in the face, dead in the eye. Even though this is specifically for the young people, I still want to talk to all of us. I want you to ask them this question. Are you ready for the challenge? Thank you, ushers, for serving as we worship in spirit and in truth. Are you ready? Young people, are you ready for the challenge? All right, if you're going to kindergarten through 12th grade, I need you to stand up real quick. Stand up, stand up, stand up. Come on, stand up. Everybody stand up. There you go. I tell you, you're going to get a workout in here. I need you to repeat after me. Life is not easy, but I can do whatever God has called me to do. Okay, I need you to speak up. Life is not easy, but I can do whatever God has called me to do. All right, be seated. Now, the question is, why is life not easy? It's not easy, young people, because there's so many challenges that life presents us with. Somewhere, I know you've already faced it, that you're going to face some challenges that's going to be tough for you. There's going to be some times, young people, that you got to confront your fears. You're going to be called out many times, and you're going to be put to the test. And also, young people, I need you to understand is that you're going to have to make some decisions that are direct opposite from the crowd's decision. So you got to stand on your own and make some decisions that really the crowd is not making. So as you return to school on tomorrow, your challenge, hear me clearly, your challenge will not be math. Your challenge will not be English, language arts, social studies, science, PE, health, Spanish, French, all those other things and subjects that you take. That's not going to be your challenge. But your challenge will be to do whatever God has called you to do as a student and as a disciple of Christ. The challenge, here it is, young people, is to live for Christ in an atmosphere that rejects Christ. The challenge is to do right, even when it's tempting or easy to do wrong. When you look at our text, the Israel army is in a battle with the Philistine army. Now, there is a challenge standing before them, and there's a challenge being issued to this army. And the one that's given the challenge is like Floyd Mayweather, except he's a whole lot taller and bigger. He's undefeated. He's the champion. He's undisputed. His name is Goliath. He's the champion of this Philistine army. And it's important to note, young people, that Goliath poses a serious threat to Israel's future. Hear me, young people. Hear me very clearly. Yes, education is important to your future. And I'm not going to sit up here and tell you, hey, Maya, it's good to see you. Maya, back home, y'all. I'll call you after sermon. Okay, good. I've been hearing you've been doing it good. I'm so proud of you. We're so proud of you. All right, back to the sermon. But education is so, I just saw it, y'all. God, it's so good to see you. Education is so important. You got to understand. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you need to study more, study hard. You already know what you need to do. Okay, and so I'm not going to give you a sermon that says you need to study, you need to, cut out TV through the week. You already know, and parents, you need to do that. You need to limit social media, TV, phones, and all that stuff. You need to shut that down so they can study. And then you need to be a refuge for them when they need help and all that stuff in their subjects. But it's not going to be a sermon to tell you to study hard and all that, because you can do it. All the young people, stand up right quick. Stand up. I want you to say, I want the adults to also say, it's going to be a different sermon. Y'all stand up. I told y'all starting to fade on me. Adults, I want you to look at somebody beside you and tell them you will succeed. You are smart. You are important. You can do whatever you put your mind to. You will graduate. You will go to college. Or you will find a good job. You will have a trade. You will have something that you can be proud of. The sky is not even the limit for you. Come on, y'all, talk to them. Tell our young people who they are. All right, y'all be seated. Watch this. So that's easy to really tell you, sit there and say, education, all that. You already know what you're supposed to do. Now watch this. Miseducation is not the greatest threat to your future. Are y'all hear me? Miseducation is not the threat to your future. But the greatest threat to your future as students and disciples of Christ, come closer, is missing God now. That is the greatest threat to your future. So hear me, young people. Let's set the scene. I need you to see this. One army is on this side, another army is on that side, and in the middle is a valley. I want you to see this scene. And what I need you to see is that this giant Goliath, this person who is the issue, is the challenger, who's taunting, who's calling Israel out, who's putting them on blast. I mean, who's talking mad junk to them, saying, come and fight me. And if you look at the text, he's saying to them, if you choose a man who comes to fight me and this man beats me, then the Philistines will serve Israel. But when I win, he's talking jump, when I win, then Israel will serve the Philistines. And who is the only one is Israel supposed to serve? God. And so now you're trying to say Philistines is going to be our God. That's the challenge. So therefore, you see him coming every evening, every morning for 40 days talking junk to who? Where y'all at? Y'all going to fight me? Where you at? So young people, there's a challenge that's calling you out. Where you at? Now, on the other end, there's another guy named David. Everybody say David. David was a young man. Probably not as young as y'all, not still in middle school. He's probably in his early 20s. Now, he has been anointed to be the next king of Israel. He's been sent to the battlefield by his father Jess to take them some bologna, some potted meat, some cheese, all that stuff. That's what they want. No hamburgers and Burger King and all that stuff. It was some potted meat, all right, and some bologna. So he took this food to them, and he did this day in and day out because he had some chores to do back home. He had to tend the sheep. And so he would go back and forth, and then he was really going not only to take the food, but his daddy said, make sure you bring me a good report. I want to know how my boys are doing. Now, in totality, there was 8 of them. David was the 8th son. He had 7 brothers. And so 3 of them, the older 3, was in battle. So David was going back and forth checking on them, okay? But this is what I need you to hear, young people. When David arrives at the battlefield, it just so happens it was the same time that Goliath shows up. He shows up and he starts to challenge and taunt them. David hears what he is saying, and then David starts to question, why is Israel not doing anything in return? In other words, something didn't seem right. All the young people, stand up again. Stand up again. Don't fade on me. I need you to hear me. Listen. To be ready for the challenge, in life. Hear me, young people. Don't be afraid to question things. Y'all hear me? Question things, especially things that do not seem right, don't feel right, things that does not add up, don't line up with the word of God. I want you to make sure that you call things out, you call attention to things, that you inquire about things. And hear me, young people, some people don't like you calling things out. Some people would not like you questioning things. Some people would not like you having a mind for yourself. They want you to be naive and gullible and just go with the flow. But you know, raise your hand, you know when something don't seem right, right? You know, some seem shady about this. You know, that's not the time to be gullible and go with the flow. That's the time to question it. That's the time to say, something is not right about this. That is time. Y'all be seated. Watch this. When you get to the place of questioning things, I want you to hear me very clearly. You will discover some things when you question stuff. First thing you would discover, young people, you would discover, hear me, that everybody will not like you. Y'all hear me? We live in this generation, in this society where we want everybody to like us. Everybody will not like you. And guess who it was in this story? It was David's oldest brother who had a problem with him. So watch this. It wasn't people at the school. It was people in his house. See, it's hard to study for math and do English when you can't get along with people in your house. Okay. Look at 1 Samuel 17, verse 28. This oldest brother, his name is pronounced Eliab. That's what his name. Listen what it said. His eldest brother Eliab heard him talking to the men. And what was Eliab's response? He got angry, right? He questioned David's presence. What you doing here? He accused him of leaving his position of tending the sheep. And what else? What happens? He called him out, said he was conceited, right? Said he was evil in his heart. You just come to see a battle. You see that? Now, what I need you to understand is there's going to be people in your life that's going to be angry, that's going to question your presence, that's really going to accuse you and going to label you. But this is what I need you to understand. When people don't like you, don't allow those people to change you. When people don't want you to fit in that group, even if it's at home, don't allow that person to change you. Now, it's going to be tough, but I need you to understand how David responded. David says in his response in verse 29, he says, "What have I done?" And young people, have you ever had that point in your life when somebody came at you and you had to question yourself and say, "Man, what did I do now? Why they on me again? Why they don't like me?" Have you ever had that? Some of your adults, you've had that, right? So what have I done? So watch this. He asked what has he done, and then he look at his reaction in verse number 30. The Bible says he turned away. He turned away and he continued to do what he was doing before. In other words, he did not like what a person who did not like him, he did not allow those actions to change him. Now I need you to see this. Turning away from people who do not like you is basically, it takes boldness. Young people say boldness. It takes boldness. Do not engage. Do not join in the pettiness. It takes boldness to turn away from a bully. Y'all hear me? I know that some of you may see some people in your school that's a bully, that picks on you, that calls you names. It takes boldness to turn away from this person. And when you turn away from this person, listen to me, parents, you ought to be someone that they can turn to. Amen? Bullying is real. They also will have haters. They will have someone that labels you and lies on you. But what, you know what I learned about his oldest brother? The reason why he had a problem with David was because of jealousy. He knew David was going to be the next king, and he was mad because he wasn't chosen. You will have people, even in your home or away from your home, who's jealous of you because they can see in you when sometimes you can't see in yourself. Hear me. You have people who have more money than you who's jealous of you. You have people who have more stuff, who have both parents. And you only have your grandma, your mom and dad ain't even in your life. But they'll be jealous of you because they see something in you. Young people, stand on your feet and say, "I am anointed." Stand up, say, "I am anointed." Y'all fainting on me. Say, "I am anointed." Come on, say, "I am anointed." I have something in me that God has placed in me. And that's what you got to learn that you have. Listen to me. When people don't like you, this is what I need you to remember. Say this after me. Know the truth and ignore the lie. Know the truth and ignore the lie. When someone does not like you, and you're going to find folk who don't like you, who label you, who bully you, who talk down to you, who accuse you, you got to understand that do not buy into that lie, but know the truth. Please be seated. Watch this. Not only will you have people who don't like you, but you're going to have somebody who's not going to believe in you. This time it was King Saul. The word had reached the king about David's question. And look at what the king says, 1 Samuel 17:33. The king said to David, "You are not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him." Why? Because you're too young. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're doing. Young people, anybody ever told you that? I know they have. And this guy is too experienced. He's been fighting since he was young. You can't do this. Hear me. I pray that it's not a parent that's telling you that you can't do something. Now, you can't do wrong. Don't get that twisted. But I'm talking about, I hope they ain't discouraging you to be all you can be through the eyes of God. I pray that you don't encounter a teacher who acts a certain way. And if you do, you need to talk up and tell it. Don't go back and cuss out the teacher and act crazy. You need to tell somebody that you feel like you was mistreated by a teacher. Y'all with me? I hope it's not a church person. Lord, I hope it ain't a church. I hope it ain't nobody in here who gonna mistreat you as a bad. I hope it ain't no church person. Hope it ain't one of your friends. I hope. Ain't that right? Ain't that right, Christians, saints? Oh, Lord, I hope it ain't. Lord, no. But the question is, when people don't believe in you, what do? You believe. You believe. Do not be discouraged, but you to believe. What are we to believe? We are to believe in the good gifts that God has given us to do. There's something good in you, young people. If you beside someone young, tell them there's something good in you. There's something good in you. You have a skill, you have a talent. What we label them as and what we call them gifts from God. There's something good about you. And you got to tap into what's good about you. What do you do well? What do you do well? You need to tell yourself, I do this well. And you need to encourage yourself, young people. And listen, adults, let's help them understand what they do well. Do not discourage them, but help them understand you do this well. But also, when you learn, even in chapter 17, verses 34 all the way to verse 37, he talks about what he does well, how he strikes down the lion and the bear. And what he says is, I do this because God gave me all of these things to do. So here it is. It's not just you good on your own, young people. You are good because who? Because God is responsible for your good gifts. The Lord did it, not you. So here it is. You got to know the reasons why you can do good things, and you got to ignore all of the negative reasons why you cannot. Y'all with me? Now, next and finally, watch this, young people, you got to know your boundaries. You got to know your boundaries. You cannot be focused. You cannot be focused on others so much that you forget about yourself. The first two things we talked about, people not liking you, people not believing with you. It's easy for us to get caught up in the blame game. Well, I can't do it because they don't like me. Well, I can't do it because they don't believe in me. Yes. And so we start sinking down low and say, well, I can't do it because you know they'll. But no, we can't get so focused on people that we forget who we are. After David showed that he was not discouraged by the king not believing in him, what happened? King did what? He offered his gear to David. Y'all see that? He offered his gear. And David began to what? Put the sword on top of the armor. And the Bible says what? He tried in vain to what? To walk in it. Y'all see that? David actually put on the king's clothes and he tried to walk in it. Now, here it is, young people. This is why I need you to hear me with your boundaries. You got to realize when you are doing something and it's a mistake and it's not working. The problem for David was not trying on the clothes. The problem was if he would have left them on. Hear me, young people. Stand up. You're fading. I'm almost finished. Hear me. Stand up. So you come to a row, but stand up. You gonna try something. You probably already had. Young people, raise your hand so I can see you. You gonna try something. Y'all hear me? It don't have to be really, really bad. I'm just saying y'all gonna try something. You're gonna try something that does not feel right, doesn't seem right, that you know is a mistake. And you got to realize now, do I keep doing this or do I take it off? Adults, look at them, tell them, y'all gonna try something. And then I want you to look right back at them and say, because we tried something. Now some of y'all so bougie you didn't say nothing. Yeah, you tried it too. See, that's why young people call us fake. That's why young people call us fake, because we're so holy now. I ain't never did nothing. Yes, you did. In fact, if you could still do it, you would be doing it now. Tell somebody you tried something. And tell these young folk, you gonna try something. Oh yeah, you gonna try. You gonna try to get away with it. But watch this, be seated, watch this. But once you realize that what you're trying is outside of your boundary, it's not working, you need to take it off. Everyone, everything does not fit you, and you don't fit it. Y'all with me? What you mean, Pastor? Well, for some, it look like about all of us stayed up last night and watched that fight. Y'all failed. It ended about 1:30. I stayed up too. So, so for those of y'all who didn't stay up and didn't watch the fight, now I didn't buy the fight. I was bootlegging on Facebook. I watched somebody live. Somebody said, I told you it's a confession. I got to tell the truth. I wasn't gonna pay no $100 for that. I was going on Twitter and Periscope, say, okay, which one is? Oh, here it is. I can see it clear right there. Y'all did too. But in the 10th round, he came out fighting, playing with him, whatever. 10th round, McGregor, he got tired. He got tired. And I mean, Floyd was landing those punches, he was landing, because he knows. I mean, this guy is a UCF fighter. Floyd is a professional boxer. He knows what to hit, right? But when it got to the point where he was getting ready to get ugly, I mean, when you start doing this as a fighter, and when you go against the ropes, and if the ropes ain't there, you would have fell out. Then it's getting ready to get ugly. Now watch this. What happened was, it spoke to me. See, I knew the Lord told me to stay up and watch that. It spoke to me, and it spoke to me about this sermon. And so the referee came in real quick, stopped the fight. But Greg said, "Hey man, I wasn't ready. I was dead." He was talking about he's out. So he was talking, hey, I'm just hurt. I don't know why he stopped the fight. And all of his fans were saying, why stop the fight so early? Because the referee knew that I need to protect you and preserve your legacy, because it was about to be a done deal. He was tattooing it, right? So watch this. The question, it dawned on me. Adults, if we're going to be very honest, how many of you, when you knew you had crossed the boundary, was doing something you didn't supposed to do, how many of you wish you could go back and say, I wish I would have stopped it earlier? Okay, y'all gonna get it. Y'all gonna get it. Y'all gonna get it. Y'all gonna get it. I mean, come on, stop being so bougie. Yeah, there's something in your life. Now, you saved and sanctified, but it took you to 40 and 50 to get it. But if you could have stopped it earlier, you feel what I'm saying? How many of you say, okay, yeah, I've been riding dirty, doing some stuff, but if I could have just stopped this earlier, then maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it would have protected me and preserved me. Only thing I'm saying, young people, if you find out you're doing something that's a mistake and you have crossed this boundary, honey, if you can cut it off now, cut it off. Because that thing will keep on tattooing you, and it will ruin your life and ruin your future. So thank God that he runs in and stops the fight. It's a challenge. Are you ready for it? What you mean, Pastor? There's some friends, young people, and the adults, y'all still hang around some folk too. There's some friends, young people, that does not fit you. Y'all hear me? And you know how I know they don't fit you? It's because even when you hang with them, you don't feel right. You try to fit in, and even when you go to the game, you may try to sit over there and they find you. Oh, hey, you coming? Yeah, I'm coming. What the Lord is telling you right there is take it off. You may have been lazy last year in your class, didn't want to do nothing, didn't want to say yes ma'am, no ma'am, didn't want to follow directions at home. It didn't fit you. It may have been you're doing certain things that you don't have no business doing. I don't have to go down the list. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It don't have to be the really, really bad sins. It can just be that you just mad at the world. But like the song said, you don't have to think about committing suicide. You don't have to think about ending it all. You don't have to think about you are not important, that you can't make this life. Yes, you can, but you got to know your boundaries. And once you know your boundaries, then you can be confident in saying, I can't walk in these. I can't do this. I want to be the boy, the girl, the young man, the young lady that God has created me to do. And I want to be ready for every challenge. How do you be ready? Well, again, you have to be bold enough to turn away from some stuff. And when folk don't believe in you, you got to learn how to believe in yourself. And then you have to recognize the boundary, because I know we got a whole lot of old folk up in here. No, I'm sorry. You getting better folk. That if we're really honest with ourselves, that you ain't doing nothing that we don't know. Amen? But can I talk to the adults for a minute? When you talk to these young people, come at them at the right way. Come at them correct. Don't come at them beating them down. They got enough of that. And if you're not ready, hear me, come on closer. I'm talking to the adults. If you're not ready to expose yourself or uncover yourself, then don't even bother with telling them anything. Look at somebody and say, keep it real. Keep it real. That's all they want. You won't have to air out your dirty laundry. Just say, honey, I ain't beating you up because I've been there. Tell them where you've been. But then tell them, well, how in the world you in the church not doing all this? Because the Lord. That opens up now the avenue for you to talk about what the Lord did for you and how it took all this time to do it for you. Tell them you ain't been saved all your life. But young folk, here's the question. Are you ready for the challenge? You would do well in math, you would do well in English, you would do well in all those other subjects. But if you don't have God, that's the major flunk. If you have God, you may not be the smartest in the class, but you will achieve what you need to achieve. Because through Christ, you can do. Are you ready for the challenge? Now, finish, but I need young people to hear me very quickly. If there's a young person in here and you do not have a relationship with Jesus Christ, I tell you what's better than brand new shoes, brand new clothes, brand new book bag, supplies. What's better than that is a brand new relationship with Jesus Christ. If there's a young person here today, I don't want you to be ashamed, but something clicked in this sermon. You say, you know what? How do you know that? I didn't know that. It was just God talking to me, to you. And I don't know what you're dealing with. I don't know what's going on in your life. But you know what? You say, you know what? I want to start the school tomorrow with Jesus Christ in my life. I want to be bold enough. I want to be bold enough to turn away, and I don't have to, cuss them out when they cuss me out. I don't have to go at them. I don't have to put them on blast because they put me on blast. I don't have to go I can concentrate because I have a relationship. And then I can learn how to believe in myself. I don't have to have people, or a boy or a girl, to validate me. And I can know my boundaries. But if you're here today, young person, I'm talking to you specifically, and you want a brand new relationship with Jesus Christ. You want to start school. You got everything ready. You got your school supply. You got everything. You tight, ready. You probably start putting your clothes out Friday night. What you gonna wear on Monday? Oh, you ready? You matching up stuff like, yeah, they're gonna be right. So, but if you really want to look good, that's fine, looking good on the outside. But I want your heart to look good. I want your mind to look good. Young people, if there's one who wants to give your life to Christ, if you want to start school tomorrow with a brand new relationship with Jesus Christ, would you just raise your hand?